Hello and welcome to the channel. If you guys are interested in watches, which if you are watching this video, I presume you are, then please take a look at my other videos. I've only got a couple at the minute, but I do plan to put more up. And also feel free to leave suggestions below on more videos you'd like to see. Especially if there are any watches that I'm going to show you today that you'd like to have a more in-depth video on. I'm happy to do that. Anyway, so for today's video, I just wanted to do a quick state of the collection. I felt like this is the right time to do it because I'm feeling in the next couple of months or the next year of 2019, a few things here are gonna switch. So I thought it'd be a good idea to just kind of get a video done of how the collection looked like at this point in time, this point in my collecting, I guess, history, that I can always look back on, and hopefully for you guys, you can kind of see how it develops. Anyway, so let's get into it. So, just a bit of background here. I started watch collecting about 14 years ago. No, about 6 years ago. So in 2013, I was kind of started when I received a watch for my 18th birthday, and that kind of said it all. And the rest is history, really. Surprisingly, the majority of these watches I have gotten in the past 1 or 2 years. So I guess my collection ramped up quite a bit. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna approach this by just going in order of when I acquired the watch, starting with the first and then ending with the last. So this was my first watch here. This is a Zenith Captain Central Second. So this is the watch I received for my 18th. And so when I realized I was interested in watches, and when it got to a point that when my parents were nice enough to suggest that they would like to get me, a nice watch to celebrate my 18th, I thought I was pretty knowledgeable about watches. I was reading a lot up on them, doing a lot of research, and so my first instinct was, I want anything but a Rolex, because a Rolex is a brand that anyone knows, regardless of whether you're into watches or not, and that many people get, regardless of whether they're a watch enthusiast or not. It's kind of almost, I've thought of it as a second thought. So if anyone you kind of tell, hey, what kind of watch would you like? Majority of people will just say Rolex, even if they don't know what a Rolex is. So because I felt I was all smart and kind of a watch nut, I said, well, I don't want a Rolex. I want something different. I want something unique and something that not many people will know. So that's how I ended up on the brand Zenith. So this is a 40mm stainless steel automatic movement. It's got around 42 hours power reserve, I think. It's got the in-house, what reference is this? Sorry. Yeah, Elite 670 movement. I was getting mixed up, 670 or 680. So, you know, a pretty well recognized movement actually. It's pretty thin as well. It's about, I think, 9 millimeters or so, if I remember correctly. So yeah, this was my first one, and it is a watch I really like. However, I have to say I have recently kind of fallen out with it, or not fallen out, it's just received less wrist time, namely because I received this guy, which is my latest acquisition, but I'll get to that in a minute. And for me, this watch kind of takes more of the dress watch kind of place in my collection, and I feel that 40 millimeters is just a bit too big for me. I do have about 6.5-inch wrists, so not the biggest, a bit smaller than 6.5. It's not the biggest size. So I just feel like a 38 or 37 dress watch would be really nice. And this guy kind of does that. This guy also kind of does that. But I'm also thinking of moving on this guy as well. So anyway, I'll get to what I'm thinking of doing with this collection at the end. But so this was my first watch. This is the one that started it all off, and because of that, it does hold a special place. So I'm still unsure whether I want to replace it with something else. And as you can see, I have developed an affection for Zenith in general. So after this, about 4 years, I would say, after. So for 4 years, this was my only watch. I wore this every day. I then acquired my second piece, and this is an Omega Speedmaster moonwatch. Nothing special about this, just a standard. I believe it's reference 145.0022. I think that's what it is. So it's roughly from the mid-2000s. I've got it on a NATO strap. Got this at an auction actually. So it's not a new watch. And that's something else I'd like to mention. All of these watches I did not buy at retail price, and I think that is very important. Majority of these are pre-owned. This was actually a grey market watch, so I bought it brand new, but got it at about £2,000 under retail. Sorry, not 2,000, more 1,300 pounds under retail, let's say. And that is kind of one of the unfortunate things that happens, or fortunate if you're clever enough to buy it properly, that happens if you buy pretty much any brand that isn't Rolex. Zenith in particular lose quite a lot of value in the second-hand market, so I would definitely advise you not to buy a Zenith at retail price. You can find absolute bargains for pretty much new mint condition ones for thousands of pounds under retail. Anyway, this one, as I said, was bought in an auction. I love this watch. It's one of my favorite watches, and in many ways this should have probably been my first watch. I think the Moon watch is a great watch to start a collection with. Collectors ranging from, you know, new collectors such as myself to collectors that have watches for millions, all can attest and respect the Omega Moonwatch. Just in general, this watch is very significant in terms of, I'd say, the entire watch market. It is the watch that went up to the moon. Which, yeah, just, that's, I think, incredible. So, never letting this watch go unless I get the only thing I would replace this with would be if I got the opportunity to get one of those Speedy Tuesday Ultramen watches, because I think those are cool. I've seen those, I have friends who have those. They're awesome. But short of that, this is probably going to stay with me for a while. Love this watch. Next, and this watch was bought kind of just on a whim. This is a Nomos Orion Vice 38mm. I have actually done a separate video on this that goes in depth on it. So if you're interested in this watch, please check that video for more details. But yeah, so when I originally heard of Nomos, I was just not into their designs. And then at some point something changed. And then one day I was going on eBay and I saw this came up. The guy had bought it literally a few months, or he'd only owned it for a couple of months, bought it from new, and then I guess just didn't connect with it, so he put it up. So I got this for about £700 under retail. Again, pretty much virtually new watch with box papers and everything. And yeah, these are really cool. These are really cool. It has an in-house manual wind movement that's really nicely decorated, and just in general, these have awesome value for money, and they're German, which is another cool thing. And their designs are probably polarizing, but I really do quite like this design. Although I have to say, recently, again, this I put in the same kind of boat as the Zenith, and I'm considering getting rid of this one. Again, just because I think I've sort of fallen out with the plainness and simplicity of this design. As much as I liked it at the time, at the minute, I'm just not too into it. And if I'm honest, if I were to get another Nomos, I would go for the Metro. I'm really into that model at the minute, especially the one with the reserve indication that turns from turns from kind of mint green to red, and has the kind of asymmetrical dial layout. I think that's a really cool watch. So yeah, this one again, potentially gonna go, probably will go, definitely would sell this one before I sell this one. Right, so last two. So these I both got, this one at the end of 2018, in around December, and I got the Zenith around January time 2019. So these are both very new watches. So let's start with a Rolex. So a similar story to this watch. I was graduating at the end of 2018, finishing a master's degree. So I kind of wanted to celebrate that by getting the Rolex that I had been putting off for so long, because Rolex is not a watch connoisseur's brand. Okay, that's bullshit. If I would do this whole thing again, I mean, I don't regret anything I bought, but if I would do this whole thing again, this brand is the most sensible brand to get as your first watch. It holds its value, it's reliable, it can get beaten up, and it just makes sense if you're not that knowledgeable about watches at this stage, which is absolutely fine when you're starting out. There's nothing safer than to get a stainless steel Rolex sports watch if you can find them. And the rule I said earlier about never buying at retail, well, this is the one exception. If you can find a stainless steel Rolex sport watch at retail price from an authorized dealer, you buy it. And I have one story that I regret. I was at a Rolex shop, and my mother was actually getting a lady's date just for her birthday, and I just so happened to ask whether they had any Submariners, and the AD actually turned around to me and said, yes, we managed to get one in this morning. And he then went downstairs and pulled out a Submariner, no date. And at the time, I didn't actually know to what extent the kind of scarcity of Submariner is, and how rare it is that you can just walk into a shop and ask if they have one and they pull one out for you. That is just unheard of, essentially. And because I didn't know, I just wasn't prepared to buy it because I didn't go into the shop wanting or expecting to buy something. And obviously, in hindsight, after I actually got a lot more into Rolex and realized the kind of situation, yeah, that was probably one of the biggest mistakes in my collecting history so far. And hopefully it's the worst one. But I did end up getting this amazing 36mm Explorer 1, reference 114270. So this has the solid end links, the sort of updated movement, I believe, over the 14270, and this I managed to find off eBay. A guy was selling it full set. This was just, I believe, a private dealer. Sorry, a private seller. Don't really think he was like sort of a watch connoisseur or watch collector of any sorts, but yeah, I ended up getting a pretty good deal. It was a auction, so I didn't buy it now. I got it for about £3,600, which I think is a pretty good deal. And another nice thing about this watch is it's actually quite a late serial number. So this was produced 2009, 2010. And so what this watch actually has, if you can see, I don't know if the camera picks up, but it has the engraved Rojo. And I believe that was kind of only done in the sort of last 3 years of production of this watch. So from 2007, 2010, they started engraving it. So ones earlier than that actually don't have the engraving on it, even though it's the same reference number. So in that sense, I mean, this watch was only produced for 3 years, which makes it quite a bit rarer than your typical 114270, which is cool. This watch is in original condition, as in it's never been polished, serviced, or anything like that. The guy did wear it quite a bit, so it's got dings in the bezel, pretty much scratches all over. Nothing too serious. It's still a good looking watch and still in pretty good condition. But this has now become my go-to watch, sort of because out of all of these, it is definitely the most kind of worn, and it's just something that I can just put on, forget that it's there, not care too much if I hit it on something, which if I hit this one or that one on something, that would make me go mad. So yeah, this probably gets the most wrist time, just because it's such a good size, and it's just, you just put it on and forget about it. So really, again, Rolex Explorer 1, if you're starting your watch collection, you can't go wrong with this. The only thing I would say is that these are now out of production. They've ramped up the size to 39mm, which I think just doesn't suit the watch at all. This is a much better size, but unfortunately, if you want to go for one this size, you'll have to go on the second-hand market, which with Rolex, more so than any other brand, is arguably the most risky thing to do, because there are a lot of copies, there are a lot of Frankenstein watches. I got lucky with this one. I didn't just dive into it blindly, like he had all the paperwork and everything. I know this is all original, but you can get cons, so be careful if you do that. So that is the Explorer. Now to my latest acquisition, and I'm conscious that this video is running on a bit. I do apologize. This has been a watch I've been after for a while. So when I got this watch, I sort of did a lot more research on the brand of Zenith. I probably should have done way more research on it before I got that watch, but I quickly found out that they're essentially known for the El Primero. And in hindsight, again, if I could go back, if I had bought a Zenith, I would have always gone for an El Primero, just because they retain the most value, they're the most sought after, and just a bit like the Omega, it is a movement with a history that's highly regarded in horology and just has an awesome story. But yeah, again, not to cut this video short because it's dragging on. This is a Heritage 146. It's got the El Primero, let me just get the reference again. 4069 is the movement, so that's based off the original El Primero, but obviously, just wipe that. They've taken off the date and taken off the 6 o'clock subdial to make this super clean looking watch. This is definitely the nicest watch I have in my collection. You can just see that blue sunburst dial going crazy in the light. It is something you have to see in person. It is just an absolutely phenomenal watch with a phenomenal movement in-house again. And what's really cool about this watch is that it is actually housed in the case of the original El Primero 386. So they've essentially gone back in the archives and kind of lasered out to exact specifications the case of the original 386 and created this watch, which is awesome. On top of that, it's actually 38mm, which I think is the perfect size, which is another reason I got attracted to this watch. And you can see it just wears really well for me on my smallish wrists. And again, I think this is a keeper. You can kind of see next to the other Zenith how much bigger 2 millimeters makes this watch. And again, now that I own this, I rarely see a situation where I would put this on over this one, because this does it all. It can be a dress watch. It's a very dressy chronograph, yet it's 100 meters water resistant. It's got a racing strap. It can do anything really. So yeah, this watch I also purchased off eBay. Funnily enough, very similar story to the Nomos. The guy owned it for just over a year, and it was in 9 out of 10 condition. Didn't wear it very much. Got it with box and papers, and that's really what you want. So, with that being said, that is the state of the collection as of February 2019. And hopefully you found this video interesting and informative if any of you are starting your collection or have a collection and are wondering what to do next. And as I said again, at the minute, I think these three are not going anywhere for a very long time. These, I think, all have very special places and are very significant watches in the history of watchmaking. So Moon, Mount Everest, and first fully integrated chronograph, 1969. These are kind of watches I got. Well, this one was because I wasn't that knowledgeable at the time and I just liked the way it looked. This, I started getting into German watchmaking and just really liked the Nomos brand. But again, I have to say what attracted me to this watch wore off quite quickly. And again, this watch, I think, now with my kind of taste and how my tastes have developed, I think this watch is a slight bit too big for what I would wear it for, which is a dress watch. And again, I'm not really liking the date on there in terms of using this as a dress watch. But again, this is definitely a stunning piece, I have to say. So I don't know, this one I'm over the fence. It has sentimental value, obviously, because without this, none of this would be here. It's what started it all. It was also for a special occasion. This one's definitely, I think, gonna go. And so what I'm thinking of doing next is probably downsizing the collection a bit. So I have in mind to sell these two and actually I'm very much looking into Grand Seiko at the minute, and they have an absolutely stunning Grand Seiko. The reference is SBGW231. It's a 37mm dress watch that has an absolutely beautiful dial. I have gone into the boutique and tried it on. It's just the perfect size. It's a manual wind movement. It has a 72-hour power reserve, and I'm strongly considering getting that watch. The only problem with it is that it is, well, until recently been a Japanese market exclusive. They've got a few in the London boutique. However, there really aren't that many floating around online in the UK, which would mean I would have to go and buy from retail, which is fine, but it is a £3,900 watch, which unfortunately, like many of like Zenith, Grand Seiko do lose quite a bit of value on the second-hand market, despite being, you know, such an amazing high-end brand, which again is fine. You shouldn't just be buying because you want the watch to keep its value. But again, I bought all of these watches under retail and they are still worth what they are when I bought them, if not more. And so, you know, a Grand Seiko for that price I could probably get on the grey market or pre-owned at around the £3,000 mark. So unfortunately that option isn't available just because it's a Japanese market exclusive, which is a shame. So I'll need to decide whether I just bite the bullet and buy, you know, at full retail, which is pretty steep. The other option I was thinking was getting a Rolex Datejust 16243. 16234. Which is just pretty much a standard Datejust, now discontinued, but again, they, in good condition with papers, they run for about the same price as the Grand Seiko on the second-hand market. So I'm kind of deciding between those two at the minute. But yeah, I think I am going to leave this video there. I actually quite enjoyed going through my collection and just thinking back how I acquired these watches and just talking about them really, because I haven't really done that in a while. Sorry this video has dragged so long. As I do more videos I will, you know, get practice and get better at them. But I guess I did have a lot to say, and if you're still here watching, thank you. And please leave any comment suggestions, what you think I should do to the collection, what I'm missing, whether you think I should keep these, get rid, yeah, anything really. Thanks very much, and catch you in the next video.